Water is violently forcing its way up your nasal cavity, burning your sinuses with the harsh chemical sting of heavy chlorine. You are strapped into a rigid canvas seat by a thick four-point harness, but the gravity pulling against those nylon straps is entirely wrong. You are hanging completely upside down. It is pitch black. The freezing water has completely filled the metal fuselage around you, drowning out all ambient sound except the terrifying, amplified thud of your own heart hammering against your ribcage. Your brain is starved of oxygen and aggressively screaming at you to release the buckle and swim for your life. But if you unbuckle right now, gravity will drop you headfirst into the ceiling of this submerged metal coffin. You will instantly lose your spatial orientation, you will thrash blindly in the dark. You will become entangled in loose wires and you will drown. You have exactly 45 seconds to override your primal biology, find a reference point with your bare hands, punch out a thick plexiglass window, and drag your heavy, gear-laden body through a narrow metal frame before your lungs reflexively inhale water. Welcome back. For those newly assigned to this grid, here is the operational baseline. I am a retired officer from the United States Special Operations Community. I spent the better part of 2 decades executing direct action, unconventional warfare, and foreign internal defense in denied territories that will never officially appear on your evening news. Due to the active non-disclosure agreements locked in vaults at the Pentagon, my face remains redacted, and my name is permanently off the grid. The military gave me a profound, lethal skill set, but it took its pound of flesh in return. My skeletal structure is a roadmap of titanium hardware, my joints are degraded to bone on bone, and I carry the localized nerve damage of a long career. The Department of Veterans Affairs sends a disability check every month to offset the physical destruction, but I am not here to rattle a tin cup. I am an officer. I was raised to lead, and I firmly believe in working for my keep. This channel is built on a strictly enforced operational trade. I give you the raw, unfiltered, classified reality of modern warfare and elite tactical training. I break down the grueling psychology, the lethal physics, and the institutionalized violence that Hollywood directors and military recruiters will never expose you to. In exchange, I simply ask for your engagement. You hit the subscribe button, you smash the like button, and you drop a comment down below. That engagement feeds the YouTube algorithm, it keeps this channel airborne, and it allows me to stay fiercely independent while delivering this intelligence directly to you. If you can respect that trade, then lock and load. We have a highly disorienting, suffocating movement ahead of us today. Today, we are analyzing the apex of survival psychology. We are stripping away the romance of military aviation and looking at the brutal, unforgiving physics of gravity and deep water. We are traveling to the sterile, heavily chlorinated aquatic training facilities of the United States military to deconstruct a course that is universally dreaded by every Marine, Navy SEAL, and Special Operations aviator who has to fly over the ocean. We are going inside HUET. Helicopter Underwater Egress Training, simply known to the men who must endure it as the Dunker. To understand why the military spends millions of dollars and risks the lives of its elite operators in this specific training, you must first understand the terrifying aerodynamic reality of the military helicopter. A helicopter is an incredible feat of engineering, but it is fundamentally an unnatural machine that actively wants to destroy itself. It beats the air into submission. And when a helicopter experiences a catastrophic mechanical failure or takes an enemy rocket-propelled grenade to the tail rotor over the open ocean, it does not glide gracefully to the surface like a fixed-wing aircraft. It drops out of the sky like an anvil. More importantly, you have to look at the weight distribution of a rotary-wing aircraft. The heavy transmission, the massive twin engines, and the dense metal rotor mast are all located at the very top of the airframe. The bottom of the helicopter is mostly empty space, the hollow troop cabin where the infantrymen and operators sit. Because of this extremely top-heavy design, when a helicopter strikes the surface of the water, it is mathematically guaranteed to do one thing immediately. It flips upside down. The military realized decades ago that the initial kinetic impact of a water crash rarely killed the heavily armored operators strapped into the back. The operators were surviving the violent crash. They were dying in the aftermath. They were drowning because when a massive metal tube flips upside down in the pitch black, violently filling with freezing ocean water, the human brain suffers a catastrophic hardware failure. The military needed a way to inoculate their troops against this specific brand of panic. They needed to teach men how to escape a sinking, inverted tomb. They built the Dunker. The Dunker is a massive, highly intimidating piece of industrial machinery. It is a large, heavy metal cylinder, designed to perfectly replicate the troop compartment of a CH-46C Knight, a CH-53 Super Stallion, or an MH-60 Blackhawk helicopter. It is suspended by thick, braided steel cables from a massive industrial crane directly over a deep, highly sanitized indoor swimming pool. The environment inside the training facility is clinical, echoing, and deeply unsettling. The smell of chlorine is overpowering and burns the back of your throat. Surrounding the deep pool are the instructors and the safety divers. The safety divers are wearing black wetsuits, carrying compressed air tanks, and holding sharp rescue knives strapped to their calves. Their silent presence alone is a stark reminder that what you are about to do is inherently lethal. If you freeze inside the machine, if you get tangled in your own straps, those divers are the only thing standing between you and death. Before we strap into the machine, we have to deeply analyze the profound biological warfare happening inside your own skull during a water crash. The human body is equipped with an incredibly sensitive, highly evolved spatial orientation system. It is called the vestibular system, located deep inside the labyrinth of your inner ear. It relies on the constant, predictable downward pull of gravity to tell your brain which way is up and which way is down. It works in perfect synchronization with your visual cortex and your proprioceptive system, the complex network of sensors in your muscles and joints that tell you where your limbs are in space. When you're strapped into a military helicopter that violently strikes the surface of the ocean, that entire delicate biological system is subjected to massive, overwhelming trauma. First, the violent kinetic impact jolts the fluid in your inner ear, causing instant, severe vertigo. Second, the freezing water rushes in, triggering the mammalian diving reflex. The sudden, violent shock of cold water hitting the trigeminal nerve in your face causes an involuntary gasp reflex. As if your mouth is open when that water hits, you inhale a lungful of ocean water instantly, immediately triggering a choking panic. But the most psychologically devastating moment is the inversion. The massive helicopter rolls 180 degrees. Now, the gravity that your vestibular system relies on to anchor your reality is pulling you up toward the floor of the helicopter, which is now physically above your head. Your visual input is completely deleted because the water is dark, churning with loose gear and stinging your eyes. Your brain enters a state of absolute profound spatial disorientation. You literally do not know which way the surface of the ocean is. If you unbuckle your harness in this state of terror, your primal panic response takes complete control. Your amygdala screams a simple command, swim away from the floor. So you unbuckle and you push off the floor of the helicopter, swimming furiously. But because the helicopter is completely upside down, swimming away from the floor means you are actually swimming deeper into the sinking ceiling of the fuselage. You trap yourself in the wreckage. You expend all your precious oxygen fighting against a solid metal wall, and you drown inches away from the exit. The harsh reality of water survival is that panic kills infinitely faster than a lack of oxygen. The human body, even under extreme physiological stress, can easily hold its breath for 60 to 90 seconds. But when the amygdala hijacks the prefrontal cortex, your heart rate spikes to 180 beats per minute. Your muscles tense up. You burn through your oxygen reserves in 15 seconds. HUET is designed to forcefully, aggressively suppress the amygdala. It teaches you to completely ignore what your inner ear is screaming at you, and instead, rely entirely on physical touch and mechanical, emotionless, step-by-step procedures. You step onto the metal platform. You are wearing your full combat utility uniform, heavy boots, a Kevlar helmet, and tactical webbing simulating the bulk and heavy weight of your body armor and ammunition. You step into the metal fuselage of the Dunker. The air inside the metal tube is hot, humid, and smells of wet canvas. You sit down in the rigid, uncomfortable troop seats. You strap into the heavy four-point harness. You pull the straps so tight they physically cut into your collarbones. You lock your rifle simulator tightly between your knees. The instructor stands at the front of the dark cabin. He makes eye contact with every single man. He does not smile, he holds up his hand. Brace for impact, ditching, ditching, ditching. The crane operator releases the massive pneumatic brake. The heavy metal fuselage drops in a terrifying freefall. The impact with the water is violent. The water does not gently fill the cabin. It explodes through the open windows and the rear ramp like a physical punch. It blasts up your nose into your throat and completely blinds you. In a fraction of a second, the hot, humid air is replaced by heavy, freezing, crushing water. Immediately, the massive electric motors on the crane engage. The entire metal tube begins to violently roll to the right. The water churns into a chaotic washing machine whirlpool. You are holding your breath. You are thrown violently against the harness, the straps digging into your shoulders. As the machine rolls past 90 degrees, the water completely swallows your head. As it hits 180 degrees, the machine stops with a heavy metallic clank. You are now hanging completely upside down, entirely submerged in the dark. This is the exact moment where the untrained human mind fractures. The urge to unbuckle the harness and thrash is absolutely overwhelming. It is a physical ache in your chest. The water is actively trying to force its way into your lungs. But you do not unbuckle, you do not thrash, you execute the procedure. Rule number 1 of HUET: establish a reference point. While you are still strapped tightly to the seat, hanging upside down, you must use your hands to orient yourself in the void. You reach out with your left hand and find the metal frame of the seat or your knee. You reach out with your right hand and find the primary exit, the window frame directly next to you. You grab that window frame with a death grip. You do not let go of that piece of metal. That window frame is your only connection to reality. Your inner ear is screaming that the surface is below you. Your eyes are useless. That cold metal frame is the absolute truth. Rule number 2, clear the exit. While holding the frame firmly with one hand, you use your other hand to forcefully punch out the heavy plexiglass window. In the training environment, these windows are designed to pop out, but they require significant, aggressive physical force. You are generating this force while hanging upside down, burning precious oxygen with water flooding your nasal cavities. Rule number 3. Only when the exit is fully open and your hand is securely anchored to the frame do you release your harness. You reach down with your free hand. You locate the heavy metal buckle on your chest. You twist and strike it. The harness releases. Instantly, your body loses its anchor to the seat. Because you are wearing a life preserver and buoyant combat boots, gravity and buoyancy violently rip you out of the seat. If you were not holding onto the window frame, you would be tossed into the chaotic, swirling center of the dark fuselage, completely lost in a tangle of bodies and gear. But because your grip is locked onto that window, you have a solid pivot point. Rule number 4, pull yourself out. You do not swim. Swimming inside a submerged dark helicopter is a fatal mistake. Your arms and legs will get entangled in the loose communication wires, the hanging cargo straps, and the seatbelts floating like deadly tentacles in the dark water. You use your arms to physically pull your heavy, gear-laden body through the narrow window frame. You have to contort your shoulders, dragging your combat gear against the jagged metal edges, forcing your way out of the coffin. Once your body clears the window and you are outside the fuselage, you do not kick wildly toward what you think is the surface. You place your hand on the exterior metal skin of the helicopter, and you pull yourself hand over hand toward the surface, following the bubbles. Bubbles always go up. Gravity lies to you, but physics does not. You break the surface of the chlorinated pool. You gasp for air, spitting out water. Your heart is pounding. You tread water, looking around at your teammates who are also breaching the surface, coughing and shaking water from their helmets. The instructor looks down from the high platform. He clicks his stopwatch. Good, now we do it in the dark. The baseline training is just the gateway. The Special Operations Aviators, the Navy SEALs, the Force Recon Marines, and the Air Force Pararescuemen go through an infinitely more malicious, terrifying curriculum. They introduce blackout goggles. You are physically blinded before you even step into the fuselage and strap into the seat. You cannot rely on the faint ambient light of the pool to guide you. You are plunged into absolute, terrifying sensory deprivation before the water even hits you. They introduce blocked exits. You go through the entire violently inverted crash, you establish your reference point, you reach to punch the window, and you discover that the instructor has physically bolted a heavy metal plate over your designated exit. You cannot get out, you are out of breath. The panic spikes to a terrifying, paralyzing level. You cannot unbuckle and swim freely. You have to maintain your anchor, reach across your body, trace the metal seats in the dark, find the teammate sitting next to you, use his body as a physical reference point, climb over his lap in the confined space, and find the opposite exit on the other side of the fuselage, all while holding a single breath. They introduce the HUET bottle, the helicopter aircrew breathing device. It is a tiny, compressed air cylinder the size of a small water bottle strapped tightly to your chest rig. It holds roughly 2 minutes of emergency air. Using a HUET bottle while upside down in freezing water is a masterclass in psychological control. When the helicopter rolls and the water violently floods your nose, you have to draw the regulator from your chest, clear the water out of the mouthpiece by exhaling sharply and take a breath. But because you are upside down, the compressed air forces its way up into your sinuses, while the water in your nasal cavity burns your throat. You are breathing a harsh mixture of dry, compressed air and chlorinated pool water. Every single biological instinct tells you to spit the regulator out, unbuckle, and swim for the surface. You have to force yourself to take shallow, rhythmic breaths of the harsh air, actively suppressing the powerful gag reflex, while methodically working your way through the pitch-black wreckage. The instructors will also simulate panicked passengers. The safety divers will grab you in the dark as you are trying to escape. They will pull on your gear. They will wrap their arms around your legs. They will simulate a drowning, terrified Marine trying to steal your air or use your body to push themselves toward the surface. You have to physically fight off a drowning man, maintain your strict spatial orientation, and force your way out of the metal tube without losing your grip on the reference point. The attrition in this course is not strictly physical. The men who fail HUET do not fail because they lack the physical strength to punch out a window or pull themselves through a frame. They fail because the claustrophobia and the profound sensory deprivation completely shatter their composure. I have seen massive, heavily muscled combat veterans clawing frantically at the metal ceiling of the Dunker, completely lost in a space no larger than a phone booth, their eyes wide with sheer, unadulterated terror, until the safety divers physically grab them, cut them out of their harnesses, and drag them to the surface. They are pulled out of the water coughing, humiliated, and mentally broken. They let the amygdala take the wheel, and the amygdala drove them straight to the bottom. What the military is actually teaching inside the heavily chlorinated water of the Dunker is the architecture of crisis management. They are teaching you that when the environment violently turns against you, your initial, hardwired biological instincts are usually completely wrong, and if you follow them, they will kill you. The military understands that you cannot fight the water. The water is an absolute, unyielding force. The only way to survive the water is to submit to the physics of the environment, slow down your perception of time, and execute a predetermined, hyper-rational checklist of survival behaviors. So why am I taking the time to give you a highly detailed, deeply psychological breakdown of a training evolution that you will likely never have to endure? Because the fundamental principles of helicopter underwater egress training apply directly, perfectly, and ruthlessly to the massive, unexpected crises in your own civilian life. You will probably never find yourself strapped into a sinking CH-53 Super Stallion in the middle of the dark Pacific Ocean. But life is absolutely going to put you in the dunker. You are going to experience moments where your entire reality is violently turned upside down. A sudden, catastrophic health diagnosis that alters the trajectory of your life. The unexpected, devastating collapse of your business or career. A divorce or betrayal that rips the foundation out from under your home. The sudden, agonizing loss of someone you love. When that crisis hits, it is going to feel exactly like the metal fuselage hitting the water. The impact will be violent. The cold reality of the situation will flood your senses, blinding you to the future. Your world will invert. Everything you thought was solid ground will suddenly be above your head, and the gravity of your life will pull you in directions that make absolutely no sense. Your inner ear, your emotional compass, will completely fail you. You will experience profound emotional vertigo. When you are plunged into that dark water, your biological instinct will be to panic. Your amygdala is going to scream at you to immediately unbuckle your harness and thrash. It will tell you to react instantly, to lash out in anger, to make massive, sweeping, desperate decisions to escape the immediate pain. The lesson from the military is this: if you unbuckle and thrash in the dark, you will lose your orientation completely, you will become entangled in the wreckage of your own bad decisions, and you will drown in the crisis. When life flips you upside down, you must execute the HUET protocol. Rule number 1, do not unbuckle. Do not make massive, life-altering decisions in the immediate aftermath of a catastrophic shock. Stay strapped into your seat. Accept the fact that you are upside down. Accept the water. Breathe through the initial shock. Rule number 2, establish a reference point. When your emotional gravity is completely inverted, you cannot trust your feelings. You must reach out and physically grasp onto something that is absolutely unshakably true. Anchor yourself to your core values. Anchor yourself to your daily physical discipline. Anchor yourself to the trusted people in your life who represent solid metal frames in a chaotic world. Do not let go of that reference point, no matter how hard the water swirls around you. Rule number 3, clear the exit. While holding onto your anchor, use your energy to methodically evaluate your options. Punch out the window. Identify the actual, logical path out of the crisis. Do not look at the massive, overwhelming totality of the problem. Look only at the small, narrow window frame that you need to pull yourself through today. Rule number 4, hand over hand. Once you have a plan, and only when you have established your anchor and identified the exit, do you release the harness. And when you move, you do not thrash blindly. You move methodically, hand over hand, one step at a time, one day at a time. Pull yourself through the jagged edges of the crisis, holding onto the structure until you break the surface and can breathe again. Panic is a choice. You can allow the darkness and the disorientation to dictate your actions, or you can force your prefrontal cortex to take command, establish a reference point, and do the emotional math required to survive. I have been in that dark water. I have hung upside down in the metal cage, feeling the cold water burn my sinuses, fighting the overwhelming urge to panic. I know the profound, desperate silence of that submerged isolation. But I also know the indestructible, quiet power that comes from opening your eyes in the pitch black, finding the metal frame, and pulling yourself back to the light. It's the power of knowing that no matter how violently the world flips you upside down, your mind remains a weapon that you completely control. This channel is my way of passing that operational armor directly onto you. We have a massive archive of tactical intelligence left to declassify. In the upcoming debriefings, we are going to break down the agonizing, millimeter-by-millimeter mathematics of the Marine Corps sniper stalk, and we are going to analyze the blood-soaked, adrenaline-fueled reality of the Air Force pararescue trauma lanes. If this briefing altered your perspective, if it gave you a psychological reference point to hold onto when the water rises in your own life, then execute your end of our operational trade. Smash that subscribe button. Leave a like on the video. It costs you absolutely $0, but it is the exact logistical fuel that keeps this channel operational, independent, and completely clear of the censors. I want you to drop a comment down below. Tell me about a time in your life when the helicopter crashed, when your world was violently turned upside down and you felt the absolute panic setting in. Tell me what reference point you grabbed onto to pull yourself out of the dark. I read every single comment. I am always evaluating the mindset of the personnel in this squad to see who has the discipline to survive the dunker. Keep your powder dry, establish your reference point, do not fight the water. I will see you at the rally point. Out.